I would like to welcome you to Helicon West. We are an uncensored public reading series. We welcome open mic readers. It's all open mic tonight because it's our 20th anniversary. 20 years of twice a month. Wonderful readings. And we welcome donations, and the QR thing is back there by the coffee. We have real coffee. We have caffeinated coffee tonight and decaffeinated coffee, and there are cookies, and you may help yourself at any point in the program. Let's see. Joseph and the library supplied the coffee and the cookies. Cafe Ibis is one of our sponsors, and they get the coffee ready for Joseph every time we meet. And we humbly acknowledge something. We are on the territory of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation. There are people who've been here way longer than we can ever imagine. And we are also grateful to our sponsors and partners. Sugar House Review, the Logan Library. Yeah, Librarian Joseph. The USU English Department, Cafe Ibis, and many community volunteers. A special request, please keep the doors closed because we're uncensored. Also, please keep a lid on your coffee, but don't keep a lid on your enthusiasm. All right, I brought some things to read for the open mic right off because people have been sending me things to read. Yay! People who have read at Helicon West in the past, and I'm going to start out with Lisa Roulard, who read for us in fall of 2015. She sent a poem right off. She said, oh, by the way, I'm writing children's poems right now. Lisa is a Seattle native. She's a Pushcart Prize nominee, winner of the 2013 and 2021 Utah Original Poetry Writing Contest. Her poems have appeared on Boise buses, and it's a poetry in motion project. Wouldn't that be neat to have your poems driving all over town? Mm-hmm. She lives in Salt Lake City and is currently, as I said, writing children's poems. And here's one for you. Corn on the Cob composition. On this yellow keyboard you must type with your teeth, biting your words, writing with your mouth full, bits of buttery letters stuck in your smile. And here's another one. This is from Millie Tullis. Yeah, Millie. Millie. She lived in Smithfield, where I live, and we used to take walks together, and we worked together at the Writing Center at USU, and she holds an MFA from George Mason and an MA in folklore at USU, and she's the editor of 2 poetry magazines. She's read for us over the years, and she's going to be reading for us April 9th in the spring from her new book, These Saints Are Stones. And here's the poem that she sent. Now pay attention, because Millie has this really amazing way of writing. You might miss something. I hope I can read it the way that, Millie, I hope I can read this the way you want me to. Dream with birds. Grandmother is teaching me to weave birds. They are black thread birds. When she stops, I slip in my hand to see that they are still downy. Grandmother's mouth is sewn with a thread the color of her hair. Outside, I gather the red dirt. I will make a red shrike from this dirt. I spit on my hands until the bird breathes. Wow. Really. All right, I'll bring you some more from far away, but first we want to get right on our first 3 readers who are here. Eli Moss, Ali Moss, did I say that correctly? Thank you, Ali, and Naomi Tim. Come on up.
Today I'll be reading an excerpt from a short story I wrote in Charles's advanced fiction writing class this semester. It's called Cavities. Nina and Aurora had never camped. Fine, that's why they weren't excited. They didn't know what they were missing. I fed myself these justifications. We all missed Jack, my brother, and their father. If I was to provide for my nieces now, I needed something to provide. I didn't have much, but I knew how to camp, and I had these old recollections of Jack. These two things I could give them, if nothing else. Memory piled upon memory as we converged on Salmon Lake. At the KFC in Hinsdale, our last chance to use a real toilet before starting the winding mountain ascent, I picked up a 9-piece bucket of chicken for dinner. I never ate the stuff except when camping at Salmon Lake. Despite the years, that greasy smell called forth the time we forgot napkins and Jack's laughter as he tried to smear his greasy hands across my t-shirt. Was I Aurora's age that year? I considered drawing my niece's attention to the trees as the new scenery consumed us. But Aurora's music blared from the car speakers, so I held my tongue. The forest intermittently gave way to stretches of old dead trees raised by beetles or ancient flame. These sections supported more green than I had recalled. New growth, vibrant and strange, hugged the forest floor. I knew all about the woodland life cycle, having explained it to dozens of tourists during my time as a park ranger at Yellowstone. Forest fires, devastating as they may seem, cleared dead organics that would otherwise choke out new growth. Staring into these dead sections of the forest peppered with new life made me feel funny. I swallowed hard and brought my focus back to the road. Our site boasted the best features of the whole campground. Generous space, appropriate proximity to the outhouse, and more grass than dirt. A smattering of trees gave way to a grassy field populated with occasional shrubs and cow pies. Across the way, a trail winded its way to the lake, which provided opportunities for kayaking, swimming, and fishing. If the clouds thinned, the Milky Way would bedazzle the night sky come astronomical twilight. To the right of the site, a thicket of trees sheltered us from neighbors. To the left, dry brushwood completed the semblance of privacy. When we arrived, the couple at the site next door waved and walked over. The couple, a round-faced Latina woman and her androgynous partner whose gender couldn't be placed by haircut nor outfit, greeted us with their 20-something-year-old cheer. They held hands and sodas, droplets of water from time spent in the cooler slicking the aluminum cans. I nodded permission to my nieces, then they were all over the proffered drinks. Excitement radiated from Nina's skin as she popped open her soda, so I created a mental note to pick up a pack next time I did the shopping. The neighbors introduced themselves as Abigail and Juniper, then left us to set up our own camp. I showed Aurora and Nina how to erect the tents, the tarp, the poles, the stakes, everything. I set each girl to inflating her own sleeping pads in their two-person tent while I attended to my own gear. Then I pulled out the bucket of chicken, and the girls joined me at the picnic table not long after. And that's when it happened. The drumstick crunched in my mouth, not hard, but I flinched back reflexively as something flared at the base of my gum. A curse nearly erupted from my mouth, but I strangled the word into a more generic, kid-friendly groan. Aurora and Nina both looked at me. "What's the matter?" Nina asked at the same time that Aurora casually probed. "All good?" "No," I shuddered, reaching in to touch finger to tooth, as if the pain needed confirmation. I bit down and my tooth just started throbbing. The girls cast me sympathetic looks, but soon enough they re-engaged in their conversation with each other. I placed my piece of chicken back on my plate. Until it subsided, the pain rendered my appetite inconsequential. I slipped away from the table to rummage through the car for ibuprofen. I took 2 pills right away, then pocketed the bottle for ease of access. Instead of returning to dinner, I curled in my tent to wait for the medicine to kick in. I squeezed my eyes shut and whispered "fuckity fuck" under my breath quiet enough that the girls couldn't hear, then repeated it a few more times for good measure. That tooth hurt. I attempted rest futilely. Every few minutes, just as my mind would begin to drift away from the throbbing in my mouth to any other subject, my tongue would quest forward, returning like a candle that licks the night, to try to understand the problem. Even that minuscule pressure against the tooth would cause it to lash out at me again, narrowing my focus back to the pain. It subsumed my attention like death, like a pit of grief that could only grow, never fade. The pain had a chokehold around my body and mind, and even the ibuprofen had filed off only the sharpest of edges, and I knew that edge would return in no time at all. And that's where I'll end tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Alan.
Hi, Alan. I have 2 just short poems to read. I need to pull them up. The first one I'm calling for now, Shaped. Why am I shaped like this? Arms, legs, fingers, toes. I should be shaped like a bird, a raspberry, or a rose. Should be shaped like a drop of water joining the lake. I should be shaped like the wind, who knows no shape. But I am not the wind, nor a raspberry or a rose. No, I am human, made of blood and bones. And what a wondrous skin is pulled over my veins. But with a heavy heart, it's shaped like chains. One more. This one is a bit older, called Lost Lilac Love. Underneath the scarlet sky, stained from the sunset, I hold you in my arms as you disappear. You turn into lost lilacs, blowing in the breeze, leaving me alone, dropping to my knees. I hug myself once you are gone, remembering old memories, from when we were young, from when we were free. Now you are free once more, floating lilacs in the wind. Wait for me, my love, I'll be with you again.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. It actually moved when I wanted it to. I'm very impressed. Okay. All right. So I am here representing Isaac Tim, who is my husband and is also awesome. So I'm going to read a couple of poems from his book. I don't know if this is illegal, but I have a couple copies of this book if you want to buy one.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I wanted to capture as much of Isaac's 16 years of having read at Helicon as possible, so I grabbed some poems. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, poem.
Anyway, here we go. I'm going to do a thing. I'm going to try and find poems in a book.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Hold on, I know where it is. Oh, it's right there. I'm blind. Okay. This is called Youth of July. Youth of July. Girl of 15 hangs out the window, slender arm waving like a moth at a friend passing or past. Her escort, a phantom young man from the nose down, eyes lost to the glare. The street flows with the youth of July, some to eddy into parking lots, pieces of green yard spread on blankets, piled on tailgates, laughter like bells over bass, caught in small moments between the passing of cars, a cavalcade of tanned elbows and flashing faces under a halo of bangs. Pretty smiling girls to be lost, then discovered, passing and turning, crossing in and out of lanes. Sex rumbles in the heart like an engine, a slow, present backbeat happening below sheltering cottonwoods, under lap throws, flush young faces, fumbling hands, groping as if ecstasy could be lost, to flow endlessly to the east out of town with honking traffic and now headlights. Evening casts itself out, beer cans come out of hiding, from inside daddy's gun rack, from behind mama's quilt, down under the floorboards, and they drink until midnight, until dispersed by unseen hands, replaced by empty street, a single slow squad car, neon that winks, closed. But somewhere is a rumble under the street lamps, the promise of another Friday night.
Oh, that is good.
Okay. Right, where is it? Oh, okay. This is a controversial poem, but I just want to preface it by saying that women can be assholes, okay? And also, pregnant women can be assholes. This is a poem Isaac wrote after he was walking in his wheelchair one direction and a pregnant woman was coming the other direction. When they passed each other, he went to go say good morning or something, and I can't remember what she said, but it was real dickish. And she looked at my husband, the handsome, awesome Isaac Tim, as if he were like slime on her shoe. So fuck some pregnant women. I'm just saying.
Someone did.
Good one.
So I love this group. This is called She Passes. This is one of my favorite of Isaac's poems. She yaws and crests down the street, a ship of the line, HMS Britannia. At 22, the breeding queen, mistress of the court above her wedding-loving cadre. Alpha girl, married Omega king, carries his baby high, really pulling off her skinny jeans. No loving glow, a gloat. All right. And here are the last two. They're similar, so we'll just jump in. This is called Getting Old. They roll in on a motorcycle, black chrome and shine. Long gone is awkward adolescence, leaving early 20s, Adonis and Aphrodite. Her face is flushed, her lips pouty for lascivious whispers, breasts firm in her tight blouse, nipples forward facing and in charge. He is tight jeans on firm buttocks, jacket just heavy enough to hang off sculpted shoulders. A tee tight enough to show every ab. He orders a sandwich like Brad Pitt gives an autograph with an off-kilter grin. I think, did they ride down the hill without helmets? I am getting old. And I will close it out with obligatory rose poem.
Yes. Love this one.
If roses have hips, then shouldn't they have feet that pound in swift, needle-heeled stiletto, tempo on tile? A straightforward, here she is stride that makes a man stand up and pay attention. An echo that demands eyes all the way up the stem to a figure well fit into a tailored red coat. Bobbed hair, short skirt, drives a man to write a poem.
So great. Oh, thank you, Naomi. Thank you, Isaac. Another poem that came to me today to be read is from our friend Shannon Ballum. So Shannon, our recent Logan City Poet Laureate, has moved to Acton, Maine, and we miss her dearly. Shannon and I were in Ken Brewer's 1996 graduate poetry class. She has written books of poems since then, taught poetry writing, helped establish Helicon West, had a massive stroke that she has been recovering from since January 2022, and has written books of poems about fighting her way back from that devastating loss of language and physical ability. She is a hero, a remarkable, courageous poet, and she sent me this poem to read to you all tonight. The Present. After the knock, I swing open the front door, and there on the black mat is a present wrapped in red glossy paper, a white ribbed ribbon curly-cued, a white satin bow right in the center. I shake it around. It feels so light. I bang it on the table, a tired hush of air inside. Maybe it is empty. Maybe someone played a cruel joke, thinking it would be funny. No, hilarious to see the disappointment on my face. Vicious, I tear the paper. It heaps beside my feet. I open it and expect to see nothing but the blank white bottom of an ordinary box, but it is filled with this day right now. On the patio, pansies, purple and yellow faces with pouty lips in bronze pots. The starling that alights on the tip-top of the neighbor's peaked roof. Black silhouette, it's still there, and still. And the peach clouds low down in the north, bright silver with soft gray scalloping their tops. The air is soft and warm. There is no wind. And just now an oriole flashes by, yellow and black, rippling and cracking through this day, this day, this. Oh, I miss that woman. So, of course, if I'm reading one by Shannon, I've got to read Brock's. They're a pair. Brock DeChair, former director of writing at the USU English Department, was a regular at Helicon West. He's now moved to Acton, Maine with his poet laureate wife, Shannon Ballum, who we just finished talking about. Brock said, I wanted to pick something funny and sexy and meaningful and emblematic of my 28 years in Cache Valley and my 20 years at Helicon. Instead, I guess I'll send you what I used for Dave Lee's ekphrastic assignment at the Cliff Notes Writing Conference. Denise knows what it is. I stole everything except the words from Bob Dylan's song, You Ain't Going Nowhere. Brock says this poem of his, Cruising Against Despair, can be sung to Dylan's tune. I'm not going to sing it. You can, though, while I read. You can hum. The weird reference in the fifth stanza, Brock says, is to Jim McGuinn of the Byrds, who changed his name to Roger McGuinn. I think he was the first to record the song, and in subsequent versions, Dylan would refer to him, pack up your tent, McGuinn, or something. It's an in-joke about an in-joke. Mm-hmm. All right, here's Brock's. Cruising Against Despair. Tide so high, clouds won't cry, cars won't run, setting sun, take a stand and pledge your hand, you're just as fine as they come. I don't care what channel it's on, I'll be watching Oz till dawn, grab some chips and light up the bong, you're just as fine as they come. La la, fly a kite, I get to see you tonight. La la, we're going to cruise, cruising against despair. Buy me a pup and a gun that pops, banana boats and pots with tops. Hide yourself in a closet with mops, you're just as fine as they come. Jim the bird, he had a whim. Jim was not cool enough for him. Roger became the new McGuinn. You're just as fine as you are, fine as you come. La la, fly a kite. I get to see you tonight. La la, we're going to cruise, cruising against despair. That's Brock. All right, next three readers, Jan Uros, Gail Christensen, and Sam Capasso.
Hello.
Hello, Jan.
This piece is called Misadventures in Dining in Cache Valley, Part 1. It was the dawn of the 21st century, and my husband and I and our best friends, Bob and Sue, were looking forward to an evening out to dinner. The old resort and restaurant, Sherwood Hills, in Sardine Canyon was reopening after being closed for a number of years. The review in the local paper raved about the new decor, the expanded menu, the renowned chef, but most of all, the new wine list. It boasted that the wine list was the largest and most exclusive in all of the state. As amateur wine aficionados, we were anxious to check it out. It was a fall evening and the drive through the canyon was spectacular, awash with a full palette of colors. As we parked the car in the otherwise empty parking lot, we noticed an older man crossing the parking lot with a small, fluffy white dog on a leash. He nodded hello and proceeded to walk into the adjoining woods with his dog. Upon entering the restaurant area, we admired the large stone fireplace blazing with a roaring fire in the entryway. Although we had made reservations and there was virtually no one else in the restaurant, we were told we'd have to wait. It was no bother, as the room was cozy and beautifully appointed. After about 20 minutes, we were seated at our table. We indeed were the only ones in the restaurant. No problem, this would ensure we would get good service. A very eager, very young, very Mormon lad came to our table and did his welcome spiel. We asked to see the wine menu, and after a barely discernible roll of his eyes, he left to retrieve it. It indeed was massive, at least 2 inches thick of wine listings in a 3-ring binder. We proceeded to select which wine we'd like to start with of the wine listings and informed our waiter. He quickly responded that that particular one was not available.
Oh.
We selected another. That too was not available. After about 5 attempts, we simply asked, "Why don't you tell us what you have available?" He replied, "We have a red one and an open white one in the refrigerator." "What types are they?" "Well, one is red and one is white." "What are the labels?" "One has a black label and one has a gold label." "Well, in that case, we will have the red bottle." A look of shock on his face, he practically screamed, "The whole bottle?" "Yes," we replied. After serving us the wine with a look of distaste on his face, he proceeded to let us know he was freshly returned from his mission from someplace in South America. Great. We just decided to enjoy our one bottle of the black labeled red wine between the 4 of us, and then we ordered our food. The food was fine, nothing extraordinary as I recall. As we were finishing up, the waiter appeared to ask if we wanted anything else. I asked if he had any cordials. He said he would answer if he knew what that meant. After I explained, he went running back to the kitchen. He reappeared with 4 small brandy snifter glasses and began to put them on their side around the table. I was afraid this was his way of cutting us off, so to speak. But then he proceeded to pour just enough brandy in each glass, still laying on its side, until the amber liquid was about to spill out of its snifter. He then upturned each glass with a flourish and presented them to us one by one. This was truly a sight to behold. He beamed with excitement as he told us he had learned this on his mission. After our meal was done and our brandy finished, we paid the bill and left, remarking how we will not be trying this place again. As we walked to our car in the dark parking lot, the only car there, we noticed the man with the white fluffy dog on a leash coming out of the woods. Had he really been in the woods the whole 2 hours we'd been in the restaurant?
This is called Why I'm Taking Spanish.
Oh, yes.
Because it is music to my ears, word music, music of the hemispheres. I take it like a slow train to the border. In my head, a love song, a street band, a bandoneon. I take it to get there, to the nimble vowels and consonants, my stiff-angled tongue and instrument, my brain blazing new neural pathways. I take it for all the times my tongue was too timid and tied in self-doubt. to have said to the ones here to work in the field, "You are welcome." To the woman who brought water and chips to our table, "I see you." To the young man who sheetrocked our house, "You are safe here." But at the end of the day, when I stopped by the taco truck down on the highway to order a dozen tamales to go, and I linger there, and Ernesto lets me go on and on like he gets it, and he asks me questions back, I take it for that doubt-defying act, when my pounding heart lifts, fumbles, and almost fails, but never does, because Ernesto is kind.
Oh,
Hello. I have had the pleasure of being in a couple of writing groups with Star,
yeah.
and that's how I have pieces to read today. I like stirring the pot. More literally than metaphorically, it's a mindless task, a balm for my nerves. After being tasked with this chore, it turns into a meditation. A controlled stir is preferable. Bring your flailing to a minimum. Keep it in motion. Simple. Cyclicity. Or less often, with a barely controlled passion, swiping through the middle a few times to more evenly distribute the heat and the contents of the vessel. Sometimes the barest whisper is all one needs to stir the pot. Broth, soup, chili, cider, wort, beans, sauces, red or otherwise, gravy, risotto. Eat too many hot peppers on a dare. Find yourself out of your skull thanks to a combo of endorphins, adrenaline, and a painstakingly measured dose of beer, purely for mouth cooling purposes. All you can do is thank your friend for giving you a long spoon and putting you in front of a 10-gallon pot of tomato sauce you guys are preparing to can. This pot is aching to be stirred. We don't want it to burn, and you're currently incapable of anything that requires more muscle control or mental clarity. It helps. 4 hours later, you're sober enough to function, to go to work. Work at the bar isn't bad. It can be boring, tedious. Maybe tonight I'll get a chance to stir the pot a little. Pockets. I fucking love them. I am a scrunched up mess of positive pocket platitudes. Number one of any 3 wishes, magic pockets. Nestled within every unassuming flap of fabric, a pocket universe. Each able to contain any and every item one might care to place in the infinite environs of these mischievous devils. Exact change, no matter the cost. These pockets know what you are looking for and have it to hand with every effort to explore them. Never sandy, never full of lint, only wet when you've got a manatee in there. That's the dream of perfect pockets. But let's get real. I come from a place of pocket privilege. The older I got, the more pockets the world offered me. In pants, shorts, shirts, jackets, and vests, even belts, just full of pockets. Being male, the world said, you carry this shit. And I did. I do. Put something in, take something out. The real magic of pockets is in their resourcefulness. Dedicated to hold your phone, your keys, lighter, wallet, chapstick, secret candy, your drugs, whatever your little pocket grubbers can push in them. But then all my pockets are full. Most of what they carry I rarely need. What I need most is a place for my hands, especially when I don't know what else to do with them, which is most of the time while I'm wearing pockets. The only solution is to empty my pockets. I love them with the sizable chunk of my heart for what they used to hold previously. More now is an empty space, having become once more what they always were meant to be, a place of possibilities.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun. Good readings tonight, of course, because this is Helicon West and only the best open mic readers.
20 years!
And since we heard from Sam, we've got to hear from Teresa next, because they're kind of a partnership. And then we'll hear from Denise, yay, and then Pam. All right, you're up.
Great. Star, I just wanted to let you know that Sean was wishing that he could sign up, I think, so.
Oh, good,
If-
go on.
Great,
Boom, done.
done. I got you, Sean, don't worry.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Just trying to sneak around.
I'm gonna read 3 poems. I'm gonna read 3 poems. This one's called Number Brain. Number Brain. You hear the whir, mental fans work to cool overspun cogs. I am number numb, clumsy full forebrain, slow to process, strained by spreadsheets, calculations, formulas, recalculations, reconciling disparate sums that must, I am done. Do not ask thought of me, do not ask for input on dinner. The machine of me requires a hard reset before additional computation, before complex logics of speech, of decision. Let fish brain take over. Seek warm, seek salt, seek love. No numbers, only float together in dark, quiet, safe.
Yeah.
And then I have two poems about poetry because I was trying to reflect on what Helicon has represented to me since I started reading here in 2014. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This one's called It is National Poetry Month. So I am compelled to consume a stack of poetry magazines, stiff from standing untouched so long. From the vacant warmth of the coffee shop, I watch cars rooster tail down Main Street, wet from last night's thin snow. Before long I will follow. Work today too full of to-do lists, boxes in want of check marks, precious attention. I put it off 10 minutes more, chew on poetry for inspiration. Nothing stirs me, drinks me in like dark espresso, lingers like the echo of your fingertips trailing my bare hip bone, my soft thighs in the pre-dawn hush of our bedroom. Inspiration trills behind my sternum as I bookmark last year's poetry, toss out my empty coffee cup, leave this place to become somebody else. Oh no, I tried to open a poem and it just picked whichever one I clicked on. Hang on. This is a nightmare. I have one more. I'm confident. There it is.
Good.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Yeah, thanks for coming on that journey with me. I like when a poem surprises me. I like a poem who holds its head steady, arms outstretched to support my weight, body and legs tensed in a powerful squat. I like when a poem smokes good pot. I like when a poem starts on time. I like a poem who knows what it wants. I like when a poem moves while I am still. I like when a poem is the same shape, except for the part that is shaped abnormally, for reasons I do not understand. I like when a poem slides 2 peppercorns under my stuck tongue. I like a poem with a haunting, quiet, beautiful singing voice. I like when a poem watches what it eats. I like when a poem knows my voice from the next hilltop and waits to walk with me and share recipes for apple cake, potato salad, gumbo. I like when a poem gets roped in, reluctant, to do one last job for Marco, one score to retire on, and then it's out. It's history, the poem undercover as senior bank security manager with floor plan intel and vault codes, exploits a distraction during shift change, pulls off the heist, holes up with Gatorade behind a false wall in the supply closet, eats power bars while the investigation runs its course, and the hapless mustachioed detective whose wife fucks the high school psychologist arrests the wrong guy based on a partial fingerprint match, the poem planted at the vault. I like when a poem surfaces unnoticed with untold riches from its hideout and strolls through the front doors of the bank into the sunlight of a perfect Thursday morning.
That was fabulous. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Denise.
Hi, it's been a while since I've been here.
Yeah,
I feel so honored to be. I've only been reading at Helicon for 2 years, but it feels like I've known a lot of people for a lot longer. Okay, I have 3 poems. This first one is called Found, and it's after Laura Ann Wasselar. Because the God I was taught to believe in as a child lived in a faraway place, out of reach, out of sight. And because he never seemed to be listening when I talked to him, and because they said it was God's will when my sister got sick, the hallucinations shredded her dreams and seizures racked her body, and because they said he was a God of love and compassion, even though she died a little more each day for 50 years until her final death day. And because the trees whispered to me as I sat in the soft dirt and leaves, and because the tangle of roots cradled me as the quiet wrapped its arms around me, and I felt it alive and breathing, and because the forest received my tears and gave me back a gladness that found me as love and belonging. And this is called Reciprocal Grace. Sun streamed in through the stained glass windows, transforming the walls, the floor, and the arms and faces of people sitting in the pews into abstract paintings. Already nearly late, I paused in the doorway, uncertain where to sit. Uncertain if I should bring even the sinner's heart into this sacred sanctuary. But I had promised my mother while we were there visiting, I would join her for Sunday service in her hometown church. So here I was, drowning in an ocean of heavy perfume, at the brink of blasphemy, toes at the edge of redemption, with the urge to run rising within me. It was that same urge that liberated me from this religion years ago. My mother was sitting in the middle of the pew, in the middle of the church to the right, leaning cozily into her cousin Joanne, conversing quietly. She didn't see me. I could still leave and come up with some lame excuse as to why I didn't make it. I could still leave. I was ready to turn and bolt when I saw my Aunt Shirley sitting alone in the second pew from the front on the left. Where she sat was in shadow. No colored light reached her. Dressed to the nines as she always was, her hair perfectly coiffed and her dress crisp and creased. Sitting tall, gazed straight ahead, the bench seat stretched empty from her to the aisle. Filled with my own knowing of loneliness, I strode forward and slid in right up next to her. Without looking at me, she reached over and took my hand. And one more. This is called Despite Distance in Time. On a recent trip back east, I gathered with a group of old friends. One dear bright light of a friend made a call to gather, and the call reached out to many, and some came. Friends I knew well 55 years ago. Friends I went through childhood with. Most I had not seen since the day 50 years ago my father's midlife crisis moved us away. We did what one would expect when old friends gathered. We drank and ate, gossiped and laughed, told stories and relived memories. We shared sorrow for the passing of loved ones and the uncertainty of the wider world. The weight of the truth of great tragedy pressed us, dark and heavy, almost unbearable. And the light of truth of togetherness shined. Collective gratitude has many hands. Many hearts can bear great weight. Together we carry each other forward, in and out of shadows, light streaming out in all directions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is one of my favorite Christmas memories when my kids were young. I have 2 little girls, and on Christmas Eve this year, they were 3 and 7. And we had already gone caroling through the neighborhood. We like to make homemade cookies and frost them and take a plate to the neighbors. So we had traveled around the neighborhood, and the very last house we stopped at was George and Alice's house just next door to ours. So we came home and had our dinner, and the girls had got into their nightgowns and slippers, and I sent them out to feed the dog. When you go out the west door to feed the dog, that's looking at George and Alice's house. And the girls went out with the food and water, and then they came back in, and their eyes were just huge. Mom, Santa Claus is next door at George and Alice's house, and we've got to get to bed right now, because if we're not asleep, Santa Claus will just skip our house. Well, we better get it done then, I said. And they brushed their teeth really fast and went up to bed. I went upstairs to read them a story and tuck them in. My older daughter handed me a book. This is the shortest story we've owned, Mom. Read fast. So I did. I just played right along. I tucked him in bed. And I went downstairs to get some more gifts wrapped and get ready for the next day. It was 7 o'clock at night. It was way too early for the girls to go to bed. So I turned on the TV. This will tell you what the era was. There was a movie on TV. It was Tootsie. I started watching the movie while I was getting ready for the next day. And I looked, and I was just waiting to hear those little girls come down the stairs. Halfway through the movie, they still hadn't come down, and I went and checked on them, and they slept the whole night. They didn't get up until 7 the next morning. And I was able to watch a whole movie uninterrupted, got everything done, and got a good amount of sleep myself. So there's a little Christmas miracle. A few days later, when I saw Alice, I told her about it, and I said how funny that was that my kids saw Santa Claus going into their family party. I knew they had a big family party every Christmas Eve, and I thought that was fun, and I thought Alice would get a laugh out of that. So fast forward a year. It's Christmas Eve again. My girls are 4 and 8. Let's see, 4 and 8. And we had gone out caroling, taking plates of cookies. We made sure we went early because I knew every year that Alice and George had a big family party. They had a lot of kids, a lot of grandkids. Almost 100% of them came to that party and had a fun time, and they always had Santa Claus come, and Santa gave the little grandkids one gift that they could open on Christmas Eve. So we stopped. That was our last house, almost home. But I knew a lot of George and Alice's kids and grandkids, so we visited a little bit, and then someone else came and we visited a little bit with them. And I wasn't keeping track of time, and all of a sudden I heard jingle bells out in the front lawn, and I knew Santa Claus was going to come in, and I said to Alice, we need to go. Can we go out the other door? And she said, just wait a minute. And I looked at her and I said, no, we need to go. Santa's coming. And she just looked at me and said, just wait a minute. And I couldn't understand why she wasn't sensing the urgency that I was feeling, because Santa Claus was going to come in with his big pack of toys, and he was going to give out presents to everyone, and my 2 little girls were going to feel left out. And I could easily solve that by sneaking out the other door, but Alice was just looking around and enjoying the festive night, and all of her family was there. They were going to have a lovely dinner and a nice night, and I didn't know what to do. And Santa called out a name, and a little grandkid went up, and Santa had a package for them, and Santa called another name, and they went up. And then Santa called my youngest daughter's name, Corey. And I knew they didn't have a grandchild named Corey. And Alice looked at my daughter and she said, go ahead, go up to Santa, he's got a gift for you. So Corey goes up there, and Santa asked her if she's been a good girl and what she would like for Christmas. And then he gave her a gift, and she came back, unwrapped it, it was something she loved. And my jaw just dropped. I just couldn't believe it. And Santa called another name and 2 or 3 more names, and then he called my oldest daughter's name, Hallie. And nobody else had a Hallie but me back in those days. And Alice looked at her and said, go ahead, it's your turn. Go see what Santa has for you. My girls were it was just incredible their little faces, you know, and once again, Hallie got a wonderful little gift that she loved. And I just looked at Alice, and I didn't have words. I didn't know what to say. Thank you just didn't seem to be enough, and thank you wasn't right because these gifts were coming from Santa. But I just didn't know what to say, and I was just overtaken with this magic. I just couldn't believe it. And I looked at her, and she said, "Merry Christmas, Pam." I just thought, yes, it really is a Merry Christmas now. What a wonderful, generous surprise. But I was still just flabbergasted with how this had all come down. And a few days after Christmas, when I saw Alice again, I said, "Alice, how did you pull that off? How did you know we were going to be there? I just wanted to know how this woman could pull this off with this big family and all the other stuff that she did." And she said, "I didn't know if you were going to be there. If you weren't there, I was going to send Santa next door to your house." And that would have been magical also. But the way it happened, where we were at her house, and she just knew everything was going to be all right, was just a little bit of Christmas magic for me. And I am still friends with Alice. She's now living in assisted living. Instead of putting her card in the mail, I take it to her every year and visit with her, and we still talk about that story, and we still talk about all the years that we've been friends and how she just inspired Christmas magic for me and my girls. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. I could hear that story over and over. I think I've heard it 2 or 3 times. I just love it. Your delivery is great. Good readings, everybody. Oh, I have one more from someone who sent me one, so let me do that one. This one is from Philip Watts Brown, who came and read last month. Philip read at Helicon Mike's before he moved away to Ogden. He came back last month to read from his new poetry collection, Boy with Flowers in His Mouth. Philip received his MFA in poetry from Oregon State. He and his husband live in Ogden, Utah, where he works as a graphic designer for Weber State, and he's a poetry editor for a couple of magazines. And here is a poem that he sent to me that was published in Sultry and Lyre. That's one of the publications that Millie Tullis was editing. So here is The Archangels Assemble IKEA Furniture. Home, it seems, is a box filled with other boxes. Table, bookcase, the lampshade too is a paper cube of light. All right angles, unlike Eden with its green and wild branches. A vague wood scent rises like memory of trees. Particle boards laid out across the floor where we kneel as if in prayer to bless this chest of drawers. Let it be made whole, let it last. Step by step until it is finished. More boxes. Right now, they hold air we'll trade for storage. Humans trade air for things, keepsakes, language, entire lives. In the hospital's bright box, we hear them pray over the body of one they love. Let it be made whole, let it last. Even following the steps, it doesn't always work. The body rests in a wooden box inside a dugout box of earth. Then they shut as if closing a drawer or a window. I think that's all the ones that came to me to be read. Now we'll do 3 more of you who are here. Woohoo! Ellie Carlson, Leah Pratt, and Braden.
Ellie. I'm going to read an abridged version of a piece I wrote in creative nonfiction this semester called It Seems Like an Act of Worship. The room is filled with the low hum of rotating fans and buzzing AC, but it's still warm, too warm. Dozens of glass-faced cabinets contain towers of machines, all connected with vibrant fiber optic cables. These are the organs of chatbots, connected wirelessly to your computer hundreds and hundreds of miles away. They click, whir, flash, and gobble up all our words. It seems to me like an act of worship, a hedonistic revel, this devourment of all the things humans have ever written. Every thought ever lucky enough to grace a keyboard. They can't get enough. They can't get enough of us. Did you know that ChatGPT doesn't know how to spell strawberry? If you ask it how many R's are in strawberry, it will say 2. This is because, instead of calories, large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini deal in tokens. Less than a word and more than a letter, these are bite-sized bits of data that ChatGPT eats, assigns numerical value, and spits out again based on the probability that each token will be next to the others in a sequence. A massive feat of computational power, but not particularly complicated. In simpler terms, ChatGPT can't spell strawberry because ChatGPT can't read. For most of their history, the 4 people of Papua New Guinea have disposed of their dead by consumption. This is seen as a sign of respect. The same way we expect to be buried or cremated after death, they expect to be eaten. To describe this phenomenon, scholars use the word transumption, transferring the material of the dead person into the bodies of the living, thus helping free their spirits. Because of this practice, a fatal and incurable prion disease known as kuru runs rampant among them. The course of the illness amounts to the brain slowly falling apart and failing to function. Symptoms include tremors, difficulty walking and swallowing, necrotic lesions, depression, and uncontrollable laughter. One of the earliest signs is dysarthria, a neurological inability to pronounce words. The passengers of Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571, which crashed in the Andes Mountains in 1972, waited more than a week to consume the bodies of their dead. Eventual survivor Fernando Parado ate only 1 chocolate-covered peanut between the time of the crash and his first bite of human flesh. As Roman Catholics, the group ruminated on damnation during that week. Their stomachs rumbled, and they quoted scriptures about the virtues of laying down your life for that of your friends. Their fingers went numb, and someone spoke of communion, of the blood and body of Christ, the most sacred of meals. Their minds fogged with hunger, but they manufactured justifications for their actions anyway. No one could be sure. Wasn't eating human flesh a sin? But eventually, every single one of them ate. As of 2024, 57% of the internet is either AI generated or AI translated. For humans and bots alike, this content is the informational equivalent of empty calories. But, like a child threatened with no dessert, LLMs diligently eat what is put before them. The statistically most likely is subsumed by the statistically most likely. The AI confuses data for its own code, input for output, self for other, autoimmune failure. It bumbles, ataxic, dysarthric. It pulls in this tightly wound spool of binary wound tighter until it can't hold, until it can't see, until it can't speak, patterns becoming duller until meaningless. This is called isolated model collapse. Suddenly, even the tech bros are advocating for a clean internet. Keep the AI-generated crap out of human spaces. We have to produce a potable reservoir of writing for them, free of their own waste. When being factory farmed, make sure the shit doesn't get mixed in with the cut. ChatGPT can't read, but one LLM can speak whale. It isn't limited by human words, squid ink strokes, or stone-etched letters. Their tokens are bits of data far beyond visual pixels. In 2024, a group of marine biologists and computer engineers teamed up to train an LLM on a dataset made up of tens of thousands of sperm whale clicks. The predictive power of the model confirmed a suspicion that scientists have had for a while now. The clicks are as complex as human phonemes, and the whales are having conversations. We are so desperate not to be alone. We've been sending radio waves into space for decades, asking if anyone's there. We love ourselves, hate ourselves, can't fathom being the only things capable of loving things and hating things. But the whales are here. They're speaking. The AI told us so, is working on translating sperm whale clicks into squid ink phrases. Do you think maybe, someday, we could talk back? I want to talk back. Somewhere in the corner office of a New York office building, a man in a $500 suit asks Gemini to write an email that should have been a meeting. In rural Wyoming, which has been in a water deficit since 1999, a tower of servers compiles a set of words that is statistically the most likely. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of drinking water rush through its veins so that the machines don't overheat. If the water isn't drinkable, it corrodes the machines faster. 3 cubicles over, a woman who put her career first closes her tab about quiet quitting, takes a long sip of matcha, and asks ChatGPT to summarize the email. Servers beep and send signals zapping across synaptic gaps. In Seaside, Virginia, the noise of the cooling system is such that it makes the windows of nearby homes shake. Some people have taken to sleeping in their basements to escape the ever-whirring, eardrum-numbing drone. Outlook offers up an array of short, auto-generated responses. The woman flips her ponytail over her shoulder and hits the very first one. It seems to me like an act of worship, complete and total submission to the automated collective, the numerical average. It couldn't be any more holy or profane if the man in the corner office was on his knees, wires in his hand, cables in his mouth, stroking and sucking. I want to press my hands against someone's throat and feel the tremors as they speak. I want to kiss their forehead, just over their brain, then each eyelid, and finally press my lips to theirs and taste what it means to intend the words you say. Do we even know what it is to connect with someone anymore?
Damn.
I'm the unfortunate one who has to follow up with that. Hi, my name is Leah Pratt. I'm a student at USU, and I'm going to read a short excerpt from an essay that I wrote in Ashley Wells' creative nonfiction class. This work is called All of the Times I've Hurt Lily. It's about the dangers of absent parenting. And if I have time, I might skip around and read more than one section.
Okay,
but we'll
7 minutes or less.
Yeah. I biked in elementary school, but only in the summer and only on the street because I didn't have the skill to bike on the rough terrain of the local trail system. That's why I stopped biking. I needed the trees. My blurry mind could trust my feet to navigate every rock, every root, and every eroded bankside far better than a pair of wheels. I ran to the woods whenever things got bad at home. I'd sprint through corkscrew paths of downed trees till my legs splintered and my lungs burned from trying to set their own fire against the cold. Eventually, I'd stumble to a walk and conduct a minute of careful bodily reflection. I focused on everything that hurt, everything that ached, everything that felt alive. Some days, I'd sit by the creek for so long that my tears might have caused the banks to rise. No matter how frantically I raced or how viciously I cried, the forest remained still. Distant hammerings of a pileated woodpecker sounded just as clear as the pounding in my own head. I felt safe under the canopy of trees. They gave me a sense of privacy without abandonment. They watched me as I tore myself to shreds, and I let them. In fact, I wanted them to see, because if someone could see my pain, then I knew it had to be real. With the trees as my witness, I took every ounce of shit, mud, and muck that coursed through my veins, and I drove it into the ground. Stride by stride, I let the rotten truth slip through the soles of my hand-me-down sneakers into the dirt until I couldn't feel a thing. The trees never turned their backs on me. If my run went as planned, I'd come home limping with a headache that was sure to turn into a full-blown cold by the next morning. It felt so good to be more tired physically than mentally for once. Let's see. Maybe I do have time for one more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see.
It's good stuff.
Thanks. Okay, the first time I hurt Lily, she was just old enough to crawl. I quickly grew sick and tired of locking the child safety gate every time I went up or down the stairs. It took a minute for my kindergarten hands to figure out the fidgety mechanism. One day, I was in a rush to get downstairs when the gate refused to lock. My parents, now 5 kids deep, were growing ever more lenient in their already laissez-faire parenting style, so I wasn't exactly afraid of getting in trouble, although the thought of being caught still terrified me. Lily was nowhere in sight. Perhaps she was still in our parents' room, where my mom sat working at the computer. I weighed my options. I'll be quick, I thought to myself, as I ran down the stairs of our townhouse. We didn't have carpet flooring anymore. The sunshine blinded my eyes and baked the ground beneath my bare feet. All I remember is the light and the sound. Boom, 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 boom. Wah! She had a giant goose egg on her forehead for days. My family still doesn't know that I was the one that left the gate open. It's not like I tried to keep it a secret. They just never asked, and I was too scared to admit it unprompted. I'm sure my parents offered some explanation at the hospital. Kids fall down the stairs all the time. They're naturally curious. They like to push boundaries, both literally and physically. Lily was especially young, though, too young to be looking for trouble. What was their explanation? What conclusion did they come to? Whatever it was, they never asked me any questions. I guess they assumed the gate was just faulty.
Hello everyone.
Hi, Brayden.
My name is Brayden, Udi, Brayden with 2 E's. They can take that GPT. I've not been here since February 14th, 2013. So thank you for having me. I'll share 2 poems tonight. This first one I wrote for a friend when it's about how at like 1 a.m. in the morning she asked me to shave her head. We were completely sober. All right. I titled the poem Sacrament, 1:15 a.m. Before we begin, in the bathroom not yet wet from showers, she holds my hand, then gives gratitude. A bathroom sink incantation. Thanks to my grandmother for giving me this hair. Thanks to my hair for making me feel beautiful. I knew her grandmother when her hair was white, voice thin. Maybe spirits do visit rooms of porcelain and mirrors and faucets and kitchen shears shearing through ponytails that sound like cutting construction paper stacked too high. She says, I feel like I'm a little girl and my mom is cutting my hair. We must recognize this tiled floor, the simple trust of handing over cutters, of breaking the rules to our bodies. We stop after every auburn blade rests in the white waste bin, or scoots down the drain, a fresh velvet skull to measure time. Time inherited, time to come, at bathroom counters and dry tubs, the way our hair smells like our mother's, looks like our sisters, once buzzed from our head. Generations plaited in holy ritual. Bless and sanctify this hair in remembrance of the body of my sister, of my mother, of my grandmother, that we may always have them to be with us. Amen. My second poem I wrote 2 years ago, and I think I thought of it tonight because not everyone will have a happy holidays or even a holiday. I called this Dream of the 90s. My Dubrovnik tour guide and I are the same age, except he remembers the national anthem sung to the white flashes of bombs. And I remember the motto from every episode of Pokemon. Team Rocket blasts off at the speed of light, surrender now or prepare to fight. It is 2023 and we yearn for the 90s. The Titanics, the Spice Girls, the Space Jams of it all. But I never considered all the kids disappearing from classrooms in Pyongyang. Not to skip school to play Game Boy, but to die from starvation. The starving body can crumble with a cold, and all the grass soup in North Korea couldn't save them. Step on a crack and you'll break your mother's back, I would say, carefully avoiding the concrete webs across our sidewalks. I thought I was saving my mom's back, but I didn't save them from Kim Jong-il's famine, or the children under missiles in Croatia. And I haven't even mentioned Rwanda, Guatemala, Georgia, Somalia. 1 for the money, 2 for the show, we chanted on the playground swinging. 3 to get ready, 4 to go. I was going to the soft wood chips and then to my bedroom with the silver stereo. Other kids, life gone, in rubble, in fields, if lucky, to rest in the ground.
Good Sweet, I'm up. Thank you, open mic readers. So our last readers are coming up, and I think I'll be one of them because I've been revising this piece. So I'll read it to you now, and then we'll have our last 1, 2, 3, 4 readers. So exciting. This is called Onions. April 13, 1976. It was our 8th year of marriage when we bought him the two-tone green GMC pickup and added a camper shell. CB radios were in fashion. His handle was Green Onion. Breaker 19, this is Green Onion, he'd say into the static. We put the 3 kids in the back of the Green Onion with a half dozen big rectangular cushions, 3 orange, 3 red. The kids fit them end to end, so they covered the truck bed with a cushy surface to bounce around on as we drove up the canyon over Ant Flat, a case of beer on the floor up front. Once we went camping without the kids, high in a forest. He took a photo of me, draped sexy and seductive over the hood of the Green Onion. I've looked everywhere for that photo. I must have thrown it away with one of my paring down and throwing out phases. Maybe I thought that photo would embarrass my grown kids. Or maybe I was cleansing a memory by removing the evidence. I'm trying to turn now from the wish to forget, trying instead to retrieve those times of my too young married life, the camping trips, the deep dark nights, and the harsh daylight high in the mountains, nobody there but us, my young husband admiring my body, and I in the prime of beauty, the two of us in love with each other in rare moments between work and worries and money fights, and his roving eyes and my need to control every aspect of our lives. I was the housekeeper, list maker, financial manager, gardener, waitress, mom, wife, who cooked balanced meals for my little family, meat, potatoes, bread, greens, and vegetables with onions as a daily staple. We loved onions. I grew up with onions from the garden. Mother made white beans and ham on winter Mondays with a whole yellow onion thrown into the deep well pot to simmer all day as she washed our clothes in the wringer washer and made our beds with clean sheets. She added onions to the summer barbecue she simmered in the Magnolite pan with hamburger, boiled, bottled tomato sauce, Worcestershire, vinegar, and brown sugar. Mother diced fresh green onions and new red potatoes from the garden and fresh boiled eggs from our own chickens to mix with Miracle Whip, mustard, vinegar, and paprika to make potato salad. She added green onions or thin sliced white onions to cucumber slices in vinegar with salt and pepper. She tore fresh lettuce leaves and served them with cut-up tomatoes, green onions, lemon juice, and salt, pepper, sugar for a salad. I still see Mother's work-worn hands pushing onions, breadcrumbs, and bottled deer meat through the universal hand crank grinder. She'd mix in an egg or two, patty it out, and fry it in butter for a late winter savory supper. She diced onions into spaghetti or hamburger stew made with garden tomatoes, potatoes, and carrots. A wonder of onions went into our home-bottled chili sauce, pickle relish, dill pickles, bread and butter pickles, onions in chicken and dumplings, onions in the turkey dressing, onions in the Sunday pot roast, fresh green onions in a glass on the table to eat raw with deviled Easter eggs if we had an early spring. Onions accompanied the meals I cooked after I left the farm, a flavor habit that bled into meals we ate at the new burger joints popping up in the 60s and 70s. Burgers hand-pattied with onions in the mix, raw slices of onions on the burger buns, the novelty of onion rings, thick sliced with deep-fried breading. I lived with my young husband in Logan, Utah, where we worked at his parents' cafe, where they served liver and onions, which I learned to like better than the fried to shoe leather deer liver mother cooked when I was growing up. Half-burnt liver smothered in ketchup and Worcestershire sauce. My husband's father, Jack, was known for the tender, succulent beef liver he fried with juicy, thick strands of browned onion. On summer Sundays, my husband's parents cooked meals for us in picnic areas up the canyon. Sarah baked russet potatoes in foil to take with a tub of sour cream and green onions. She packed fat tomatoes for slicing, along with onions and cucumbers in vinegar. Jack grilled enormous T-bone steaks with pepper and garlic salt. The kids played by the river, and we adults drank scotch and water and argued and fought until dinner was ready. Ate together, pretended things were fine, carried silent grudges all the way down the canyon. The aftermath, the youth, and the onions, and the scotch, the husband, the cafe, the in-laws, the divorce. I have lost my ability to tolerate even the smallest amount of whiskey or any member of the allium food group or the mere thought of in-laws. You might even say I've developed an allergy to memory. Our last readers are Tim Keller, Joseph Anderson, Sean Anderson, and Sarah Anderson.
Part of the family now.
Yeah, you're part of it.
Sean's moving right in.
And they're all with an O.
I've shared this once before last year, so I apologize if you heard it.
We love hearing it again.
This book, called, as you can see, the title is Blankets, was banned in all Utah public K-12 schools in August of last year. I feel so strongly about intellectual freedom that I'm going to share some very personal insights. But first, a quote from James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Growing up male, straight, white, middle class, and as a member of Utah's predominant faith, I had many privileges. But during my late teen years, in the late 1990s, conflict erupted in my home, where I was the oldest of 5 kids. Amidst a miasma of mental illness, grief, abuse, and distrust, I often clashed with my parents about religion and values. Not everything about my life was awful, and I found solace in music, girlfriends, and libraries, but the toxic environment was bad enough that it eventually led to me being a homeless, nearly friendless, suicidal school dropout within 6 months of turning 18. Unbeknownst to me, around that same time, a young artist named Craig Thompson was processing his painful rural Midwest adolescence into a new graphic novel. As he was finishing the book, I was beginning to heal after marrying my smart, patient, and strong partner, Amy. I got my first library job, we started having kids, and I went back to school. Blankets was published in 2003, earning acclaim and a bunch of awards, and I read it in 2012 after it was recommended by my good friend Sean. Seeing something like my own experience portrayed in such a beautiful and moving way between the covers of a book was at first overwhelming and then profoundly comforting. I was reminded of the positive potency of creative expression and visual storytelling in particular. I learned that Thompson went through a lot and yet survived to make a constructive contribution to society. Most importantly, I understood that I was not alone in my experiences, and that fact gave me power and empathy. I wish Blankets had been available for me to read as a teenager. Of course, the story of my teen years is not unique. Perhaps you experienced something similar. From everything I know, especially from what I've heard from Amy, teens in our community are experiencing it right now. But without blankets and other such stories on their high school library shelves, that same source of power and empathy isn't available to those teens unless they somehow know to seek it elsewhere, like at the Logan Library. Lifelong learning and exploring the reality of our world are core values for me. Truthfully, that's what led me to nonfiction librarianship and humanism. I'm upset that some people are seeking to infantilize anyone who's not an adult by banning books that include human experiences that make them personally uncomfortable. In my opinion, restricting professional educators and librarians to presenting an overly sanitized, idealized, ultimately untruthful view of life, and then hoping that minors will be prepared on their high school graduation day or their 18th birthday to handle the real adult world is a foolhardy plan. All kids should have the opportunity to access developmentally appropriate literature, news, art, research, instruction, and conversations that can, step by step, help them place their experiences into context and prepare them for the future. No system will ever be perfect, but I believe this is a noble goal to try for. That's one of the main reasons we have public schools and public libraries. It's been 12 years, and Blankets is still yielding power and empathy to me and many others. So I say, let's unite against book bans and let Utah read.
Yeah.
Okay, this has been a banger night. Thank you, everybody. I am going to read a short essay that I wrote on Sunday in my online writing group. Our prompt was to write about doing something that you don't know how to do. So here we go. I made a playlist this week, named it Liberation Praxis. Academic bullshit language for pop music that carries a proper hint of defiance. Not full tear it down, but white liberal defiance, like the second act of Wicked, where a white woman gets to self-congratulate for being a woman of color's only friend. Never mind the fact that in oppression, the oppressed learn how to love and trust and befriend at deeper levels than their oppressors ever could. My playlist starts with Florence and the Machine's Sympathy Magic. I don't have to be worthy, she sings. I no longer try to be good. It didn't keep me safe like you told me that it would. And Liberation Praxis has to be about stepping out of the illusion of safety, because humanity's safety has always been a lie. After the election in 2024, I spent November and December preparing myself for the end, falling asleep imagining nuclear holocaust or queer labor camps, waking up and dragging myself to work each morning, past the office on the local university campus that used to be our inclusion center. The Rainbow Ally stickers peeled from the doors and the nameplates. On New Year's Day, I took a couple of mushroom capsules left to me by a friend whose lung cancer cut his life too short. I moved my husband's and my bedroom into the basement, where I could pretend that in the case of nuclear war or break-in, the top floor would be burned or ransacked, but we would be safe in the basement. I completed the move, laid down on the bed, and thought about how the world has nearly ended over and over again. Pandemics and plagues, Cold War, conquests, climate change, predators, AI. We as a species have danced on the cliff edge, but we have not plummeted yet. And still we give our power away. If we elect this businessman, he will know how to organize Earth's dwindling resources in a way that keeps us all safe, right? Mm-hmm. Never mind that the level of community and selflessness is nearly impossible when you decide that you own things. I own a home, one of maybe 3 couples my age that I know who can afford to. I opened the basement to friends the year before I moved down there with my husband. Almost from the second they moved in, I resented them for using what was mine, my house, my trash can, my Christmas tree, my flower. They lasted 6 months in my house before they moved away. I grew bitter in those 6 months, reclusive, depressed, prone to breakdowns, overly dependent on cannabis. I dream of opening myself, my house, my world to the right people, the kind of people who can meet my exact cleanliness expectations, who won't be weird about casual nudity, who will want to watch what I want, but never make me watch new shows, who will share drinks and break bread, but who won't upset the neighbors or ruin my routine. Come on, I can take it. Give me everything you've got. I scream along with Florence and the Machine on my way home from work in my electric car alone. What else? The irony doesn't really hit me in the moment as I scream about my desire to take on the world when I can barely handle a plate left in the sink or a child screaming too loud on the front lawn. Liberation praxis. I am pretentious in my hopes, in my way of living in this world. I want to be generous because I believe the secret to freedom is generosity, is letting go of self-centeredness, holding mine loosely, or maybe letting mine slip away, forgetting that it's possible to own anything, because ownership, like safety, is a myth, and liberation is the freedom to see the world as it is. But isn't that too easy? The writer in me resists the tidy bow. Everything is lie, freedom is seeing the lies as they are, the end. I become a conspiracy theorist, telling you the frogs are being turned gay, the government is doing something sinister with 5G, and the pizza place is the devil's gate straight to hell. The conclusion is cynical, and I am tired, exhausted of cynicism. If I could talk to myself the day my friends move in, I would tell him that I will never find exactly what I want. I will get close, but the act of wanting blocks my ability to see what is. There are 8 billion people alive with me, more than I could ever know, but such an astonishingly small number in comparison with the universe's vastness. Instead of wishing, what if I met and wondered and celebrated and accepted and thanked? What would that liberate? Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Star. My name is Sarah Solberg. I've been coming to Helicon West for almost 10 years. It's pretty crazy. I came for the first time when I was 14, 23 now. I'm going to school to study creative writing now at USU. And I'm just grateful for this place and for uncensored writing. I shared this first poem a couple months ago when I wrote it. It was the last time I was here. I had a lot of frustration in my romantic life in a short period of time, and so for a while I was joking to my friends and just saying over and over again that I didn't believe in love, and this poem is about that. It's called Open Window. I say I don't believe anymore, but the lie is an open window. The truth is written in clear letters on my sleeve and in my eyes. It is in every saved voicemail, every song, every "you've been on my mind." It is a piece of me so ingrained I couldn't lose it if I tried. It goes where I go, it flows from my fingertips into every hand I hold, it sticks to my skin like cigarette smoke. And these days I try to wring it out of me. I scrub the affected areas like my love is a disease, and what I'm left with is the memory, just as present as before, staring at me through the window and waving from the open seas.
The library will close in 20 minutes. The public computers, meeting rooms, and study rooms will close in 5 minutes.
We haven't gone this long in this building. We ran into the announcements.
Wow.
That was the end of the poem anyways.
Well orchestrated.
Thank you.
Make a scarier announcement.
I just have one more. It's called Reprise of an Open Window. I've just started seeing somebody for the first time in a long time, and it feels scary and weird. So this is a reflection on that first poem that I wrote this week. I said I didn't believe anymore, but the lie was an open window. I wonder if he could read it the first night in my eyes. The persimmon and smoke on his lips is enough to clear my palate of every loss I've tasted in these past bittersweet seasons, and yet when he asks me what I'm thinking, I dare not indulge in honesty. Still, I am afraid to betray this cool pessimism in favor of this real-life fantasy before me. But as always, I am clear glass, printed letters on a page that need not be read aloud to be understood. My body acts as ticker tape, and this is what it says. I can see you through the window. I'm swimming towards the open sea.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. That was fantastic. What a great evening. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I love this. Oh, Helicon West in January, we are collaborating with the Nature Center. So we've got some really cool things coming up January 8th and 22nd here at the library with the Nature Center. So we'll see you then. Please put your chairs away and eat some cookies, and I'll see you next time.